welcome to the first official book club episode of the Ink Drinkers podcast. And we hope that you are ready to drink some serious ink this month, or should we say chalk. We are reading R.F. Kuang's Katabasis or Katabasis. We've heard it pronounced both ways. I believe the audiobook says Katabasis.
It does.
This is not my first R.F. Kuang book.
It is mine.
So this will be an exciting journey for Mandy. I have read the first book in the Poppy War series, Yellowface and Babel or Babel, depending on where you're from. Previously, with Babel, I think, being my very first book by her, and that, let me tell you, is a linguist's dream. Just an entire magic system based on translation, and then showing like power imbalance and stuff like that, and cultural appropriation and colonialism. It was a phenomenal read. So also read that one.
Should we dive in?
Yeah, let's go for it.
All right. So we start off this book, chapter 1, getting to meet our characters, Alice and Peter, and their motive behind using magic, because they're at Cambridge College, which we see is now in this world a college for magic, the most prestigious college for magic, and their motive for going to hell. Alice is where we start off. We get to see her in the lab drawing out this pentagram that she has really studied to be able to, travel herself in her search for her professor, Grimes. Because he has passed away. He's in hell. She needs him back so that she can have him around for her dissertation.
Which, as somebody who's gone through grad school twice, an advisor makes all the difference. So I'm 100% behind her and her motives on needing her advisor back to get through this last step and move forward to get herself a good job. I totally get it.
Yeah. So speaking some more about Alice before we move into the introduction of Peter, we get a little bit of backstory with Alice here too, where we see her kind of reflecting on the fact that like she's the reason why Grimes is dead in the first place. That she made a mistake in the pentagram because Grimes doesn't do his own work. He's too important for this. He has his advisees, and all of his students do, his magic work prior to lessons and everything like that. And he doesn't give any of his students credit for that either. Like she's very specific in stating that and everything. So she mentions in this kind of like flashback that she didn't close the loop and everything, and nobody really knew that she was there that day, and that's Grimes' doing because he doesn't log when and who is doing this pre-work for his lectures and things. And I wrote down this quote because it gives a very good state of mind also, so that you can kind of like debate whether like, okay, did she do this purposefully, or is she really like this far gone and she made an honest mistake behind it? It says in here, but Alice was not in a sound state of mind that day. She had not slept properly in 3 months. She drunk so much caffeine that the world shimmered. Alice was desperate to get back in his good graces.
And I feel like that is a very common thing in graduate school. People wear this like overtired, overworked, I haven't eaten or I haven't slept or I'm on my like 12th cup of coffee for the day as like a badge of honor. And I think for Grimes, not checking his students' work is incredibly reckless. And because students are still students, they're still learning. And yeah, they have to perform the task, but you should be behind them, especially if it's something that could potentially hurt somebody.
Yeah.
Like he should be looking over their shoulder. They're overworked, they're overtired, and they miss things because they're learning. Um, I also question whether this was purposeful or not in leaving a mistake, not necessarily that she realized the consequences was
Mhm.
that he was going to die. Um,
Oof.
but this was a test that they always did, and to
Mhm.
miss that step after doing this so many times, or
Mhm.
at least drawing a pentagram so many
Mhm.
times, I feel like is a little bit suspicious. But then again, it did say that she wasn't in her right mind and like the world was shimmery. Like maybe she could have missed that step.
Mhm.
But again, as her advisor, he should have um, done something. He should
Mhm.
have performed the test himself, or at least ensured that the test was performed.
Yeah. I mean, or maybe do some of the work yourself too. Like, not
Mm
just leave it up to your students doing it all the time, because this mistake, this one little close of a loop not being there,
hmm.
led to his death. And his death was, I mean, to say the least,
Mm.
not pretty. And
Yes.
for those light of heart, for you, dialing in and reading along with us here, the description was everything the horror reader in me. Oh, I soaked it up.
hmm.
I did. I think I probably reread that paragraph like 2 or 3 times, because I was like, she went there,
Mhm.
describing his eyeballs popping out of the sockets like grapes. I
Mhm.
mean, like, it's just like, you can see that. His intestines were described as jump ropes.
Yep.
I was like, "Yep, I can." Okay. His body was flying apart in all sorts of different directions. I love this little like um, Easter egg kind of thing
Mm.
that comes along later on in this section or whatever. They talk about how his jaw fragments landed with a plop into his cup of Darjeeling tea,
Mhm.
and that there was only so much left of him, that they only had a bucket of remains for inside of his coffin. So
Okay.
this man, who could have checked his own work, done his own work,
Mhm.
brought about his demise from maybe an overtired student, maybe somebody that has somebody against him. We don't really know yet at this point.
Yeah.
We're just meeting Alice.
Mhm.
We're not very far in, and he, I mean, his death was pretty gruesome.
It was like the fact that she described it as like his remains just fitting into a bucket is both dark and like comical. And I feel like that's a big feature of her writing. But just like watching him die and then juxtaposing that with the comicalness of the bucket.
Hmm.
But then she starts to talk about the timeline of like them
Hmm.
cleaning up the lab.
Yep.
Then they kind of like do a memorial service, and there's a little bit of a grieving period, but it's so short. He's like
Yeah.
replaced within a week,
Yeah.
everything's done, and it's just like move on. And I feel like in academia, most people, when they are going through research and they do all of this work, they want to like make a mark on their like area of study, but also on the university
Hmm.
and have like this whole legacy. And it's like done in a week. He's over with, we're moving on. And it's like, what does that say about
Yeah.
this particular world and academia and how people strive for all of this? And you can just be gone in the blink of
Hmm.
an eye.
Hmm. And what legacy did he leave behind? Like,
Hmm.
we don't know yet.
Exactly. We're seeing Alice's perspective of how everything moved quickly, and now she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna move on."
Yeah. But also, I need him here because
Mhm.
I need his accreditation to be able to make my own legacy.
Right. I even have that. I have that written down in my notes. Alice kind of sucks? Question mark. Like she's going back not because she feels necessarily guilty about her mistake or
Hmm.
any of that, but like also just going to retrieve him
Him.
for her own
Yeah,
purposes.
her
Like
own
that
selfish needs.
makes me feel not as bad for her. Yeah, an interesting perspective.
Yeah. Well, that brings us to Peter then, because we
Yes.
also get introduced to Peter, our other main character. We find out that he's kind of the star-ish child,
Yeah,
just
that's
from
what it seems.
Alice's perspective, and everything. You can tell that she kind of has a lovish, hate-ish relationship, like this rivalry kind of
Yeah.
thing going on with him, and he just kind of like pushes his way into her magic and
Oh,
like,
yeah.
hey, I'm hitching a ride. Coming with
Yeah.
you.
He walks in and like clocks what she's doing immediately.
Mhm.
And we do hear her talk a little bit about like books being missing. Like when she talks about her
Yes.
research and how much she's done to like get to the point where she's drawing on the floor in the
Mhm.
lab and how she wishes she could have found this text or that text and it was mysteriously gone. And then he walks in and fixes a couple things so that they can go together. And you realize he's the one that's also been
Had
doing
it the
this
whole time.
research.
Mhm.
I think he's positioned as a very privileged
Yeah.
child, like student man, that he came from privilege and was just like, he's the one, he's the chosen one type of thing. And he kind of seems a little annoying to me when he walks in and is like, oh, well, if you do this, 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 and this, and oh, you should do it this way. And oh, do you even know how to tame Cerberus? Like, do you know how to get through these things? And that kind of rubbed me the wrong way.
Mhm.
And again, we are seeing things from Alice's
Yes, we
perspective.
are.
So, did he mean to be that way, or did she just perceive him that way? And that's why we're feeling
Mhm.
a little frosty towards him.
Prickly. A little prickly.
Hmm.
Yeah. Um, so a little off topic-ish, but there's one little like nod to like other literary things in here that I loved, because as college students and as they're preparing their journey to hell, the food that they eat, lembas bread.
Mm.
Um, it's the elfin food from Tolkien, from The Lord of the
Mm.
Rings. So I love that this is what is also sustaining the nutrition of this world. Just throwing that one at us all. I can't say that maybe Tolkien came up with that. I would have to like do a little bit of research
Yeah.
into, but I'm sure there's some sort of foundation there, maybe. But I love that, because as soon as I saw that, I was like,
Hmm.
oh, okay, so we're gonna pull some old fantasy out for this one too.
That's really interesting, especially knowing who Tolkien is and how much research he did. I wouldn't be
Hmm.
shocked if it's some like part of mythology, which is another huge thing that I feel like we get
Yeah.
in chapter 1 is the study of like hell
Hmm.
is Tartarology, which immediately I clocked as like being of Tartarus, which is the Greek, like one of the Greek element allusions to the underworld. And we keep getting different references to like
Hmm.
different elements or different mythological versions of the underworld. And
Or other previous scholars that have traveled
yes,
there. She mentions um, T.S. Eliot
yes,
as one of the like research people that she read
hmm,
of. Dante for Dante's
yes,
Inferno,
Orpheus
Orpheus.
in the
Hmm.
Greek myth. And so we see all of these different, they're looking at it as a true academic would from all of the different perspectives that they have and allusions to all of these different
Hmm.
texts and taking them as, gospel for what hell will look like and what to expect. And so honestly, I haven't read a lot of them, if I'm being quite
Hmm.
honest. And it does make me want to like look into them and kind of understand so that I can better understand what their perspective is going into it. But I'm loving getting all of these different references and being
Hmm.
able to like go in my own little rabbit holes as I read.
Absolutely. So then we see them, get ready to finalize, like
Hmm.
actually travel to hell, and we learn the price for entering
Yes.
hell. Um, half, let me emphasize that enough. Half of your remaining life. I can't even fathom, like,
Hmm.
finding, like, being in Alice's shoes. Would my dissertation really be worth giving up half of my remaining life? Let's say my remaining life is only 20 years. So giving up 10 of those 20 years
Mhm.
for a dissertation, and I may or may not be able to build my legacy because that's an unknown. Like,
Yeah. I think that is the kicker, right? So she's got to be what? Most graduate students probably mid to late 20s.
mhm,
If you finish your undergrad at about 22, and you're getting to the point of where you're at the end, most graduate programs, well, in the UK, if I understand correctly, they can be very specialized. So maybe 3 years, maybe 5 years. So you're probably
mhm,
mid to late 20s at that point. And they're probably, I would assume, working off the logic of what the average
mhm,
lifespan is. So you think you maybe have another 50
mhm,
years. So you would be giving up 25 and basically, sounds bad, but sentencing yourself to death in your mid 40s, 50s. Um, and is that enough time? But you
mhm,
don't know. You could have, only 5 years left. You could have, 20 years left, like you just said.
mhm.
You're working off an unknown and more probability and statistics than you would probably like.
And Alice doesn't like math.
No, she does. And I agree with her. I think at one point she talks about that, and we'll talk about it when it comes up. But I think being somebody who attempted a PhD program, I would just get a new advisor.
Yeah.
I think I would, but I understand the lineage part of
Mhm,
the, academic lineage and who you studied it under is super important. When I did my PhD or tried to do my PhD, I just wanted to be a teacher. So I didn't really, it wasn't that important.
mhm,
But if you're really trying to be like a big name and have that
mhm,
type of grandiose, maybe it is worth it.
mhm.
Personally, no, not for
No,
me,
no, gosh, no.
but I can see what she's getting at here.
Yeah.
I am interested in why Peter wants it
Yeah, I mean, Peter says he wants Grimes back for the same reasons, but it just doesn't feel like that
the
pull just doesn't
same.
feel the same for me. It really doesn't.
It feels like Alice's feels more like an underdog and like she really
Mhm.
needs Grimes. And the way that we're set up and presented, Peter, he's already like a golden child and like
Yeah.
he could have the pick of the litter. He could, go to any other professor and do the same work and still be accepted.
Yeah.
So why are you doing this
Mhm.
and giving up and making this huge sacrifice? Which my theory at the beginning is that maybe this is about going to hell and coming back and being one
Mhm.
of the few that's done it. Is it the prestige of that?
Yeah.
And is that worth it?
To
But I don't
stand
know
out,
at that
maybe.
point.
At the end of the chapter, we get this little tidbit on magic,
Right. Mm-hmm.
where I think it's really nice to see. It's a very easy way to see the setup of what magic is in this book, this setup
Mm-hmm.
and everything.
Because you need it.
You need it, yeah. And so she very easily puts it as it's the act of telling lies about the world. Natural laws of the world were set but fragile, and magic was a system that could, if you could do it, you could just reinterpret those. So basically, it's about making lies.
Which I think is a really interesting perspective. And I think it also bleeds into the lies. Like Alice is studying
Hmm.
to tell lies about the world, but also I think that inherently makes her um, like makes it easier for her to tell lies to herself and about herself, like that she's not good enough,
Mm,
that she needs to work harder, that, I feel like she's also setting herself up as like not as good as Peter. And
mm,
like,
hmm,
how are those lies affecting her work? And how does telling lies for your discipline
hmm.
feed into how you perceive the world?
Yeah. It definitely makes, I feel like, especially in this chapter, Grimes's death, you see her not feel so guilty about it
Mm-hmm.
and everything. Like, oh, I can fix that. I can manipulate that. I'm going to go to hell
Mm-hmm.
and everything. So, like, she's already coping with this very big thing in that way because of it.
Well, and I didn't even think about it that way at first. Like maybe she doesn't feel bad about it because she feels like she can fix it.
Mhm.
She's like, "Oh, yeah, I made this mistake and we're going to go through this whole grieving thing quickly because it's not permanent.
Mhm.
I can change it." And I like, yeah, that when everything's a lie, I can spin it. I can
Mhm.
spin everything,
Mhm.
which is interesting.
So, chapter 2 takes us into
Hell, here
hell.
we are.
We're
We
here.
made it.
We're here. We get the view of hell through Alice and Peter's eyes. And it starts out by telling us that hell reveals itself to you in whatever order it so chooses. We are met with the viewing pavilion. And
Mhm.
this is where the idea of hauntings come from. I really liked this
Oh,
aspect
yeah.
of it,
Mhm.
that souls are in the viewing pavilion, sometimes waiting for other loved ones because they want to be able
Yeah.
to travel through the courts of hell together. Or, maybe they're trying to process that they are
Mhm.
there. There's a lot of different reasons why they're, hanging out.
Yeah.
Um, and hauntings, we take it as,
Mhm.
these these entities are here to spook us, to bother us, and things like that. Um,
Unfinished
unfinished
business.
business.
Mhm.
And they put it into the perspective of, no, like, actually these souls just want to be included still.
I can
And
see that.
yeah, and so, like, they're mimicking, they're in the areas of their death and everything,
Mhm.
because they want to be included. They're not ready
Mhm.
to take the next steps of moving on through
Mhm.
the courts of health, or moving towards reincarnation.
And I think it's really interesting, like, the first there's a lot of mythology about hell being a fiery place, and hell looks different to different mythologies, which we have seen how many different versions of hell she's referenced so far. But when we first enter hell, it's like sandy and ashy and just like empty.
Mhm.
And then we move through the viewing pavilion and we realize it's like shifting,
Mhm.
which leads to, like you said, it presents to you in the ways that it wants. And it's like kind of specific to you, which I think a lot of people or a lot of different philosophers have kind of talked about, like different, um, how hell is different for everyone. And even Peter in chapter 1 says hell is people. Hell
Alice
is
says it. Alice
Oh,
says it.
Alice says it. Hell
Mhm.
is other people. So like there's always some variation, and I love that
Mhm.
about how she is really bringing hell to us.
Mhm.
Um, Another quote from part of this is entering hell was easy, leaving was hard.
Yeah.
And so I think that's also when we see all of these souls hanging out in the
Mhm.
pavilion, that feels very apt because it's like they got here,
Yep.
but they don't know how to move forward.
Yep. Yeah. And that's where we then see the fields of asphodel, which
Hmm.
they give that analogy of this being, the waiting room or the waiting zone, where souls are staying for a really long time. We find out also, instead of calling them souls, they're shades.
Yes. Hmm.
And some of the shades that we meet for the first time, Alice and Peter have an interaction with four
Yeah.
different shades. They're in a group together, and they are referred to as Professor Grimes' first victims. Those are the words used, victims. And we find out that an experiment went wrong. We don't know how many years ago. I didn't
Hmm.
see a reference in there. An experiment went wrong and a fire occurred, and it was hidden, brushed over,
Hmm.
kind of like, nope, no, no big problem, no big deal.
Hmm.
But these four students died.
Hmm. Which one the fact that they're his first victims
Hmm.
shows that there's a pattern here. Um, they've already talked about the different, alluded a little bit to the different courts of hell. And so we're wondering where Grimes is at this
Hmm.
point. And we've also kind of seen a pattern with Alice in chapter 1 that he puts students in these precarious
Hmm.
situations and that he doesn't check their work. And then these accidents happen. And my question at this point,
Hmm.
and we probably have not seen the last of victims,
Yeah,
right?
probably.
Is how was this man able to have enough power to have all of these accidents happen and still continue his career with a certain amount of prestige?
Yeah.
Now, when we meet the students, there is, it seems, a little bit of like a, oh, you're a Grimes
Wisey.
advisee.
Hmm.
So we notice that there's like some type of issue.
Yeah, there's like a connotation to that.
Right. And so it's like maybe there is some type of stigma related to
Hmm.
him. But right now, obviously, this happened some distance in the past,
Yeah.
and he's just died and
Hmm.
still held his position. So, what the heck is going on? I also think the reaction from the students,
Yeah.
the shades, is
Yeah.
interesting, and how, like, I almost feel like they're still looking for his approval.
They are. I definitely think so because when Alice and Peter said, like, "Hey, have you seen him? Like, he's here somewhere. Have you seen him come through?" Like, one of the shades were like, "Oh yeah, I guess I did see him." Like, they thought it was a figment of his own
Mhm.
imagination here in hell, and the other
Mhm.
three were like, "Wait, what? You didn't tell us you saw him?"
Mhm.
Like,
Very upset.
devastated that they could have seen their advisor here in hell and like found some way to get his approval when he's the reason they're dead in the
Yeah.
first place.
Mhm. And they're staying stuck. Like
Yep.
we've just said a couple of times, like this had to happen a significant time in the past.
Mhm.
Why haven't they moved on? And I
Mhm.
think that when they pose that question, their answer is so
Yeah.
interesting. And they say, like, how they talk about not wanting to reincarnate because
Yeah.
they could reincarnate as something lesser,
Yeah.
and be in a position that they don't perceive as good. They
Mhm.
perceive it like, I could reincarnate in impoverished, in a
Mhm.
rice paddy, in some position that I can't get back to being a magician.
Yeah.
And I would rather be a dead magician shade than move forward.
Yeah.
And Peter also feels like, he's like, "Oh, they should just move on." And I feel like
He's
that's
so quick to it.
right. He doesn't consider, it almost feels like he doesn't consider all of these things.
Mhm.
And it's just like, "Oh, you'll just come back and you can do whatever." And they are looking at it from,
A very different. Yeah.
mhm,
It's almost like you can tell that they've had to work for these things where Peter has
yes.
not.
Mm,
He's talking from a place of privilege.
mhm,
Yeah, their fear of reincarnation because of that total loss of identity, of their memories, their background, the relationships, the status that they've had to work for.
mhm,
All of those have compiled. There was a part in there that a quote that I wrote down that says, "From the objective perspective of the soul, reincarnation was no different than death."
mhm,
So once again, like they've already died, but they remember who they are here,
mhm,
but they're gonna die all over again and then have to start from scratch with nothing at their fingertips.
mhm.
And Peter doesn't have that correlation. He can't make that.
He just doesn't seem to think it's a big deal. Oh, okay, like, I'll just go and live another life.
Mhm.
But it seems to us at this point that his life has been pretty easy or pretty positive. And so why would he fear
Mhm.
reincarnation? Whereas like Alice, who has had to work so hard to get where she is, or these students
Mhm.
who seem to have had to work really hard and go through some crazy things, like, yeah, they're not sure that they're gonna be in a good place if they reincarnate. I totally get it.
Yeah. And then the chapter ends with Archimedes.
Yes, we love a cat.
We love
Oh.
a cat. And I love this because, we've always had a theory. Can pets see can pets see the dead?
Mhm,
You know?
mhm,
And it in Katabasis,
mhm.
Catabasis, um, cats can cross the boundaries. So yes.
Cats are wily. I have no problem. I have no problem, like, believing that. I have 3 of them. They are all over the place all the time, so I'm totally okay with this, and we love an animal companion.
We do. We do. We do. Chapter 3, we get to see the queue.
Oh, yes.
The
Mhm,
queue leading to the first court of hell. Um, you know, like a line going to a club.
Mhm. Yeah, that's the
That was that
comparison.
was the comparison. Um, and I love it because they were it was very vague, but they kind of, and you talked about the length changed based on the time period and population growth or decline. And even birth control was mentioned, that
Oh,
like
yeah.
the queue had gotten shorter because women were on a pill now.
Well, and there were a lot less children
Hmm.
and things like that coming through,
Yeah.
which just the conversations between the shades, like,
Hmm.
really, like, interested me with the things that they were focused on,
Yeah.
like birth control,
Birth
like,
control.
oh,
When Alice and Peter try to cut the line to like get
mhm.
through, because we're magicians. Like we're not
Well,
trying to.
and we're living people.
Yeah,
Like, we're not dead. We're not trying to advance through this
mm,
process.
yes. And we saw that the shades had a very big reaction to that and could actually like affect the atmosphere with their
Mhm.
reactions. Was pretty telling. Like
Mhm.
these are not just measly souls, like they have sort of substance and ability,
Mhm.
even though they've been waiting in this line for some time.
Well, and that they're even though that Alice and Peter are alive, that doesn't mean that they're immune to everything in
Hmm.
hell. And I think that's an important thing to realize going forward is that, yeah, they're shades, they're like seem amorphous
Hmm.
to some degree, but no, they can do things to
Yeah.
you. And I think we even saw that a little bit with the undergrads, where one of them became more solid.
Yes. Yeah.
So obviously, their state can fluctuate,
Hmm.
and I think that was an important thing too.
Yeah. And then they did question if anybody had seen like Grimes
Hmm.
here in the line and everything. And even in hell, his superior manner was described by the shades, and they knew
Hmm.
he was this magician, and they had this one in particular. I think he was mathematician,
Yeah.
maybe.
Hmm.
Had some very stark words about Grimes himself and everything, and how he was able to push his way through. Like he definitely cut the line and everything.
Hmm.
And so that kind of worried and pushed Peter and Alice to make the decision to like not wait for this line. Like, how long is
Hmm.
this going to take us? Like, we
Yeah.
can't stay here for forever following, you know, the plan of hell itself. Like, we have to
Hmm.
find Grimes. And so they decide, well, we'll just climb the wall then.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to want to wait if there are people in line that are amazed by birth control.
Yep.
Obviously, it's been centuries.
It's been
And
centuries.
I've I've had this question about how time works
Yeah.
in hell. They don't She hasn't told us yet how
Mm-mm.
time works. And so we don't know, is how long are they going to be here? Is a day in hell a day on earth, or is
Right.
like, what is the time difference?
Are we going by hours? Are we going, yeah, we
Mhm.
have no idea.
And it's not clear. So what, like, do they even have time? Mind you, they've given up half their time. So
Yeah,
like it
exactly.
feels pretty important to know how like things are working. And so
Yeah.
I don't if I had the option, I wouldn't wait either.
No, I wouldn't wait either. I'd be climbing that wall so fast. And climbing this wall is definitely an experience in us getting to know Alice and Peter a little bit more
Yes.
too.
Agreed.
Um, I feel like we see a different side of Alice in this moment, because we kind of see some tension roll off of her. She's in a more natural state. We find out that she is an avid hiker, rock climber. Like this is
Mhm.
something that has
Mhm.
been something that relaxes her, a hobby of hers, that this brings her enjoyment in a different kind of way than her studies do. She's in her kind of natural area.
Mhm.
This is like a second nature kind of thing for her as she's going about. Peter, on the other hand, full panic mode,
Yes.
completely paralyzed, gripping on for dear life, ready to. I mean, he literally thinks he's going to die in this moment.
Mhm.
And I was kind of surprised by Alice's reactions, because as selfish as we've seen her be in wanting to be the only one that finds Grimes, bring her back for
Mhm.
her own reasons and everything, I mean, she could have just left Peter there. She could have
Mhm.
gone on. But instead, she harshly in some moments. You know,
Mm.
she's like, if you don't move, you will die. She says it straight to him. But coaches him,
Mhm.
you know, gives him the strategies like, you're using too much of your elbows, like put all the pressure on your fingertips, don't use your
Mhm.
thumbs, and is able to like work him through the panic attack to be able to get him to the top of the wall.
Which I feel like a couple of times in the previous chapters, there seems to be some illusion that they were close
Hmm.
once. And I've been kind of questioning by this point, did they have a relationship? Were they in
Was it romantic?
exactly? And so and then something happened, and that's why she's so closed off to him because
Hmm.
obviously they know each other well.
Yes.
So there has to be something missing, or something we're missing.
Yeah.
Um, but Peter in his like panic attack, like paralysis,
Yeah.
it's so interesting that she's so practical and
Yep.
she can just get through it and he thinks he knows everything. We see at the
Hmm.
beginning in chapter 1 something we didn't mention was like he when he walks in, "Oh, do you know how to tame Cerberus? Do you know these all of these different strategies to get through hell?" And here
Hmm.
he is in hell and that knowledge isn't helping him
Yeah.
complete the task.
Yep.
And so I just think that that should help Alice feel more on the same footing as him. I
Hmm.
don't know that
Yeah.
it does,
Yeah. I don't think it
but
does.
I think it shows why they will probably need each other to get
Hmm.
through the task.
Um, I wanted to bring up that the top of the wall. When they get up there, though, they see the overview of what they're going to have to trek through,
Oh yeah. Mhm.
and it's described as this like moving labyrinth, this like miragey looking thing, and they have a hard time. Like they're both seeing this, and Alice is like, "Okay, I must be going crazy in this moment. Like my memory and my vision, and like I'm hallucinating, kind of thing." And then she realizes that Peter's seeing the same messed up image that she is, but in a different
Mhm.
way, and everything. And like she's able to hone in and realize that like no, actually, like it looks like Cambridge. It's the bell towers, it's the college courts, it's the
Mhm.
stone department or whatever. And every time their eyes slightly lose focus, the terrain morphs into this winding
Mhm.
labyrinth. And they're like, oh crap. Like
Mhm.
we have to get through this to be able to find crimes. Um, and this is that moment where like again, my horror brain goes because um any other horror fans out there, in Hellraiser 2, when you see the scene of the main characters going into like the hell or whatever, it is literally this like winding maze labyrinth thing. And so like that's what I'm imagining they first see is this like big twirly
Mm.
like labyrinthy like crazy until they can like get it to like focus and then
Mhm.
realize like the scope of it. And I cannot imagine how overwhelming that must feel at the top of this wall. And like, okay, now we got to get down and through this all because we got to find Grimes and then we got to get
Mhm.
back.
Yeah. And then that also makes me think, well, while we're talking about Greek mythology, um, about the labyrinth with the Minotaur in it too.
Mm,
It's like there's this labyrinth that you're trying to work through, but there's also this like big bad in the middle of it. And it's like
Lord Yamo.
how do you get through it and how do you like defeat the monster?
Hmm.
Um
So
he
then we are on top of
mhm,
the wall,
the wall.
and Peter mentions the cook.
Yes, he does. He says, "Well, he said at last, I suppose I would have to find a new adviser for the cook." And Alice's heart stuttered. "You won the cook?" "I only found out last week," he said. "They were delayed in their admission cycle this year on account of, well, the accident." So then we find out there's like this prestigious thing that kind of actually sounds like a Fulbright scholarship. And they,
Yeah, it's funding for traveling,
mhm,
academic elbow rubbing.
mhm,
Like Grimes gets this like shoe in for him.
super prestigious, but we also find out that Professor Grimes gave Alice the idea that she was a shoe in for it and
Hmm.
that she was going to win it and that she
Yeah.
shouldn't worry about it. And so, her finding this out in
Yes.
hell, that she didn't win.
It's a big kick in the gut.
It's huge, and that kind of, like, seems to throw off their dynamic. He like, doesn't he seems to be, like, mentioning it casually,
Yeah, just kind of in passing.
and it's not it doesn't seem to be something that, like, a rival would say to, like, push her buttons.
Mhm.
He just seems to kinda say it and then realizes that it upsets her and then tries to, like, cover it up. So we get to see more of that, like, rivalrous dynamic,
Mhm.
especially from Alice's side.
Yeah.
Um, but we also see after they have that conversation, Alice start to, like, unpack things.
Mhm. Yeah, and Alice's retort too to
Oh, yeah.
Peter,
Mhm.
because Peter was supposed to go on a trip to Italy with Grimes,
Right, right, I heard about
to
that.
the Arcana conference,
Mhm.
and Grimes started complaining about him, and everything, slacking on things, and this, that, and the other, and he had Alice replace him on that
Mhm.
conference, and so like not that necessarily Peter meant to upset Alice in this moment. It's unclear to me. I can't decide where I
Yeah.
land on that.
Mhm.
Um, and everything. I feel like it was more of he's just trying to find companionship as
Yeah.
they're going through this.
Mhm.
Like he's trying to almost talk himself out of another panic situation as they're seeing this labyrinth that they have to walk
Mhm.
through
Gotta
to
go
get to
through.
Grimes. That he brought it up, but like she finds it as another moment that she has to be competing
Yeah. With him.
with him over Grimes' affections or praise and
Mhm.
everything. And so she does do a little bit of flashbacking to when she had first, come to Cambridge and was, Grimes' advisee. And
Mhm.
this, once again, this like kind of cloud that is put over. I mean, it's put
Yeah.
over Peter too, but we
Mhm.
don't see as much of that because we're again in Alice's perspective. And this like pity that's laid upon her.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
oh my gosh, like, are you doing okay? Like, how's that going? Is he just awful?
Oh, yeah.
Like, she's given that
Mhm.
all the time. Um, each and every time that somebody is told that Grimes is her advisor,
Right.
and mentions of Olivia Kincaid, another female advisee under Grimes, that is there. So during Alice's first year, Olivia is described as always crying. Um,
Mhm.
during Alice's second year, she is curiously absent.
Yeah.
Um, during Alice's third year, Olivia should have graduated but was still in coursework.
Which means she hasn't gotten to even her research for her dissertation yet, is what I'm assuming.
Uh-huh. And in that year, she describes to Alice, Olivia says to Alice about Grimes, he is a monster. He's simply a sociopath. And when Alice asks her about that, she's like, you'll find out. Just wait, you'll find out. And then in Alice's fourth year, Olivia takes medical leave, comes back for 3 weeks, and then disappears and is never heard of again.
So now we've seen the 4 undergrads,
Yep.
and now we've heard the story of Olivia,
Hmm.
and we're
Seeing
putting
some sort of,
things together that he is a big issue. And
yes.
obviously when people are like, "Oh my god, you're a Grimes
Hmm.
advisee, like, are you
Are you
okay?"
okay?
We see that there's also people know this. This
Hmm.
isn't a secret. It's not
No.
like this is kind of out in the open. So now we're all questioning how deep into hell are we going
Yeah,
at this point?
seriously. Seriously. Okay, so chapter 5. This chapter gets interesting because I think the biggest part of it is seeing Alice and Peter really debating the way in which they're going to navigate through hell.
Mm,
Like,
mhm,
what's the proper way to navigate through hell to specifically find Grimes? They've
mhm.
both done their research. They both have their differing maps of hell.
Yes.
And we know that hell it has adapted to them. It's become the college campus. And they're trying to decide, well, how do we interpret Grimes's sins
Mhm,
so that we know which courts or court
mhm.
to look for him in?
And I would think to myself too, what don't they know?
Mhm.
They obviously didn't know about what happened to the undergrads.
Mhm.
So, how much has been covered up for this man?
Mhm.
And so you don't to me, I would know where to start maybe,
Mhm.
but I wouldn't know everything.
Well, and you see Alice defend Grimes too. In this chapter a lot, I feel like
Mhm.
Peter will, gave her an example of
Mhm.
one thing, and she was like, "Well, he didn't mean it this way, and he wouldn't do that." And so, like,
Mhm.
they're also interpreting him very differently as well.
Which I think is really interesting and how it like shows us how attached
Hmm.
or potentially like that feels a little bit trauma bondy. Like
Yes.
he put her through some things and now she like he has to be not that bad for
Yeah.
her to like keep her sanity. But speaking also of navigating
Hmm.
things with Peter and we kind of alluded this a little bit earlier with Peter and Alice, they took very different approaches
Hmm.
in how they prepared for this.
Yeah.
So like Peter knows all the knowledge, right? How to tame Cerberus, all
Hmm.
of these different things. But he doesn't pack a blanket.
Mm-mm.
He doesn't pack things that he would need practically while Alice is like, hello, like what did you think you were going to do when you slept?
Yeah.
And so they are two different ends of that, and seeing how they're going to work together with learning like what kind of court should we go
Hmm.
for and whose map is better,
Yeah.
because they also worked off different texts, and
Yes.
she's like, oh, you had that one, and he's like, yeah, I did.
Yeah.
And what languages they can read, because
Yeah.
Alice talks about getting part of her map from a Chinese text, which is something that he can't read,
Read.
uh, because she could read the actual Chinese. There were no translations. And so that affected how she was going to get through.
Hmm.
So I think those things are also piling up to be really interesting.
Yes. Yeah. Um, yeah, because like when Peter brought up his map or whatever, she called it like a pizza anus or something like that. It's like all these like pizza crusts or whatever, like piled up on top of each other. And he was like, well, we'll figure out what his, biggest sin is,
Hmm.
and we'll skip and just, go to whichever one.
Hmm.
And Alice was like, "Well, I couldn't tell you what his biggest sin is. Like, I don't."
Hmm.
She's almost got this like mystical view of him still.
Rose colored glasses.
Yes. And her map is, here's the Lethe, and it's got all these different, like, they're
Layers almost.
layers. She describes it as like nesting dolls
Hmm.
and everything. And so she wants to, go through each one of the courts in order, looking
Hmm.
for him or trying to follow his path through, which is what they end up deciding at first to do,
Hmm.
whether she convinces him or he just capitulates in the moment
Hmm.
and everything. But yeah, like seeing the difference in their preparedness for sure. Like she's thought a lot more about those things.
Hmm.
Like, no, like, how can you say that, he's not in pride and that he is in greed, or that he's not
Hmm.
in desire and that he is all the way in the, the seventh court? Like,
Hmm.
I have no research behind that could show that is true.
Well, and Peter keeps talking about this mythical thing, the peak. Let's just get to the peak.
Peak.
And she's like, there's no evidence for that. Like, I
Hmm.
don't know where you're getting this. How do you know there's a peak? How is that going to help us? What if we try to go towards that and that just wastes our time? Because, again, as we've discussed, time is very important.
Hmm.
So, like, do we follow this? I've kind of inferred by gaps in all of these texts that there is this thing,
Hmm.
or do we go with the sure path, which I feel
Yeah.
like is what Alice is proposing?
Yeah.
And that one seems to be the most likely.
Hmm.
Um, but I mean, there wouldn't be another however many chapters if it was going to be
If
easy.
it was gonna be
So,
easy, for sure. Um, and then this chapter ends with a little, like, one of those fun little on
mhm.
reincarnation moments, and, whew,
This one was heavy.
it was heavy. But I also, once again, like Beyond Magic, it gives a lot of perspective to what
Mhm.
this world is, like what hell is, and really talked about how hell prepares our souls for reincarnation because the universe has to have balance.
Mhm.
And that not one person or one soul could tell us what it looks like. It looks different for every single person. I quoted a quite lengthy part because I feel like it summed it up pretty well. Um, in here, she says, "For all of our theories and stories and myths, Lord Yama's design remains an utter mystery. No one knows for certain what precisely happens in those courts or why, least of all the shades within them. If it is a test, no one knows how to pass. If it is mere torture, no one knows how long it will go on for. One cannot anticipate, cheat, or find a shortcut through redemption. We cross the leafy and reincarnate whenever hell deems us ready. It happens when it happens. Until then, we get what's coming." So this kind of like gives me the thought of like Peter trying to find that peak.
Mhm.
It ain't gonna work. Like you can't find a shortcut.
But I think it also talks about it kind of puts us in perspective with Grimes, who is obviously trying to find that shortcut, right?
Yeah,
He cut the line, he's pushing
it's true.
through, he's, and so part of me, like when we're approaching pride, it's like obviously that's
Hmm.
like the basic level thing that this
Yeah.
man, like that's just his personality.
Yeah.
So, like if hell keeps you there until you're ready, he could be anywhere,
He sure could.
and we don't know for how long or what that looks like,
Hmm.
and I think that makes the journey forward even more mysterious and, like, really makes me wanna figure out how this is gonna work.
Yeah. Speaking of pride,
Mhm.
we enter pride in chapter 6, and it's the library.
Oh, my favorite thing. A very fancy
A
library.
very fancy library.
Mhm. I mean,
I mean, they've got secluded areas where you go and cry your woes out here.
yeah, that's pretty sad.
It's filled with research candidates that cannot solve the problem that is posed to them
Mhm.
at all. They are in this just terrible, vicious cycle of failure with an unanswerable question, I feel like. Um, and this professor, I cannot remember his name.
More.
Thank you. Who is in charge? Um, Everything about this man made me cringe.
I think that's a point.
I know it is, but every like the fact that he ignores Alice the entire time
Mhm.
and everything and keeps on commenting on, "Oh, this Cambridge man, you're a Cambridge man. We've got a
Mhm.
Cambridge man."
Mhm. Yeah.
I Yeah, he
Mhm.
if anybody should be the ruler of the realm of pride, it is this man.
Yes, he is the fact that he completely ignores her in favor of Peter,
Mhm.
very obviously shows misogyny in academia and how like she couldn't. They're in the same program with the same advisor, like but she could never like measure up. Um, he, I love the way they get out of it
Oh my
though. I
god, I do
love
too.
that they use a proof.
Yeah. Oh, not they. Not they.
Alice
Thank
uses a
you.
proof to get through and like make him keep going and so they can like sneak off.
Yep.
Um that is just ingenious.
Yes. And I love too that they both like quickly agreed like Grimes would this is below him, he would not be stuck here.
Mhm.
There's no way that this is the realm or the court, sorry, the court that he would be stuck in. And for Alice to outsmart this man, and Peter was like,
Mhm.
"I never would have thought of that."
Yeah. Mhm. I also think the problem of this court is interesting. To find the good and
Mhm.
how everybody is prideful and
Yep.
thinks that they have the answer and then they go to try to um give the answer and then they're rebuffed.
Mhm.
They're wrong.
Mhm.
Um, I think at the end of this chapter, they say that somebody thinks that they've completed it. but
Yes.
then we never get to see what happens, and I'm
Mm-mm.
kind of bummed about that.
I
I
was a
wanted to
little
see
bummed too.
that.
I also questioned myself, do they think somebody completed it because Alice and Peter got out? Because they snuck out? Because the
Um,
door opened and they've never seen the
hmm,
door opened. I couldn't decide. I was like, did somebody actually solve it and get out?
hmm. I thought
Or
I
was it them escaping?
I thought it was somebody from another part of the library, and they used that as another way to like sneak out the back. Is that somebody was like, I think I've solved it, and they're ready to like go give their defense.
Yes.
Not that they actually had given it yet, but that they were going to propose
Propose
something.
it.
So I don't know. It could be either way.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably that way, but like as we were sitting here, that
Mhm.
idea popped in my head. I was like, oh, wait, did they think somebody solved it because the door opened and it was just them leaving?
Mhm. It could be.
I don't know. I don't know. I feel like they quickly got out of pride.
Yeah.
It was very, I mean, they knew Grimes wasn't going to be there.
Mhm.
And so we see them kind of traveling along the Lethe, which is this river.
Mhm.
And um, we get a little bit of understanding that, like, Lethe and its breakdown
Mhm.
of what it means.
Yeah, that it's from the Greek, and like it can mean forgetfulness or also truth. So like thinking about that in different mythologies also, I was thinking about like the river Styx from
Hmm.
like, and how that channels into the underworld, and how going into it, how that relates to memory, and once you
Hmm.
pass through that you can reincarnate because it wipes away all your memories,
Hmm.
or you get the truth, um is very interesting. And then once Alice starts staring at it,
Yes.
and I was unclear. So she says she starts to see different memories, but
Hmm.
I was unclear if it was just her memories
Hmm.
or if it was memories from different people. Like it had sucked up the memories from people, and when you stared into it, you could see those.
Yeah.
Um, it like she seems like a
Entranced.
like a deeply, deeply affected by
Hmm.
it, and like pull like drawn to it, which
Yes.
I think is very
Yeah.
interesting.
Kind of like a siren's song.
Yes.
Yeah, very much like a
Mhm.
siren song. And one of the visions that we see her get, and Peter's not affected.
That was gonna be one of my other questions I was gonna bring up too, is like,
Yeah.
why is Peter so unaffected? Is it because she stared too long?
Yeah.
Or is there something different?
Yeah, is there something different, some sort of connection or whatever? And so one of the images that Alice sees is of old lady Meng Po. And in Chinese mythology, she is the goddess of forgetfulness.
Mm,
She serves traditionally soup. In some of the writings, it's
mm,
tea to souls in the underworld. And that is the liquid that will erase their memories before
mm.
they reincarnate. So we're seeing some sort of liquid here. Here's the
Mhm.
Lethe,
Right.
the river.
Mhm.
And in the Chinese mythology, it's the soup or the tea. She's known as the goddess of oblivion, which is another
Mhm.
terminology for Lethe as well as oblivion. And she's usually on the bridge to forgetfulness in the underworld. So here we are. Um, and so it allows them to start their lives fresh. It ensures that their new life starts with a clean slate, that they don't have any of the ties to either previous sins or
Mm,
their previous joys. So, my question here, because we have a very clear image of Peter,
mhm.
but I don't feel like I've gotten a very clear image of Alice's look, right?
Mhm.
And here's another time that we're referenced to Chinese or Asian culture.
Mhm.
And is this also another reason why Peter's not seeing what Alice is seeing? Are we seeing
Mhm.
some of Alice's heritage that we don't know as much of?
Yeah, I feel like we've perceived a lot of Alice's identity through her academics and like
Hmm.
where she's going in her research. And so that seems to be, again, how she perceives herself and
Hmm.
her identity. We do know that she's American at this point, a
Yeah.
little bit, like we've had allusions to it. I think in maybe in Line, there was something about her being American. And if you're listening to the audiobook, the um, accent changes
Yes. Yeah.
when she talks. But we do hear her. reference being able to read Chinese, and
Mhm.
that this is who pops up
Mhm.
when she's looking at the Lethe, kind of makes you feel like she's probably Asian American. Um, Outside of the context of what we're reading,
Mhm.
knowing R.F. Kuang, many of her main characters are Asian women, and so I feel like that is a safe bet
Mhm.
to have here. Um, but it's so interesting how she is tying in not just, I feel like a lot of the time here we're or in the US and in a lot of Western countries, we're so Western centric.
Mhm.
I love getting this little window into other Eastern views
Mhm.
of the
Mhm.
underworld and how we can reincarnate.
Yeah. And when this particular mythology was mentioned, not a lot of that like backstory was really given, I felt like, in the text. And so
Hmm.
like I went down my little rabbit hole because um fun fact here, I love, cryptids and urban legends and
Hmm.
all sorts of different little mythology pieces and things. And so I was like, okay, I don't have a book on this one. Like, I want to know a little bit more. And
Hmm.
so it was really neat to see how that was tied in with the setting that we were in for this particular chapter as well.
Hmm.
So
And then, just like we mentioned before, Peter seems very unaffected. And
very.
I'm not sure, like I said, if it's because she stared too long. And, um, like, does this, I had a question of, like, does staring at it magnify the feelings that she already has?
Hmm.
Because then she starts to kind of spiral a little bit and she has to like say her catechism
Catechism. Hmm.
thing to bring herself back out of that. And when I was listening to that, I was like, oh, this is like the little anchor thing, the little um talisman that they have in Inception, where like they hold on to it to like bring themselves back to reality and see
Hmm.
what's reality and what's a dream. That's what this felt like. But, like, then she goes on to say, like, I wrote down a quote. Her memory did that sometimes.
Hmm.
She confused her memories and reality. Her imagination was too vivid. She couldn't help it. And so here with that, I'm like, is she an unreliable narrator? Is
Hmm.
her perspective solid enough for us to know that this is what's really happening?
Right.
Or like is she kind of mad?
Don't know.
It seems like this part, I wrote down this quote, this seems like it will be important as they go along. Like
Right.
the fact that she
Yeah.
admits that she has a hard time distinguishing memory from reality.
Well, and she had said that too when they got to the top of the wall. She was questioning, like, am I hallucinating right now? Am I, or
Mhm.
is Peter seeing this too? And when she realized
Mhm.
Peter was seeing it too, she's like, no, I'm sane right now. Okay,
Yeah.
we're good. Like she had to check herself in that moment too. So it is kind of a common theme that keeps on popping back up throughout.
So we'll see.
So we'll see. And then we get another world tidbit, this time on chalk.
Oh, mhm.
Where we find out the whole reason behind the use of chalk within the world and why it's so important to magic, and the fact that it's got a link to the past from what it's made of, that it can write magical chalk, at least can write
Mhm.
on just about any surface, and that in all of the books of research, that there's no evidence that chalk has ever worked in hell.
Which that's the big dun 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 moment, right?
Yes.
Because they've come to hell thinking that they have magic.
Yep.
Because why wouldn't chalk work? That doesn't make sense.
People have made it back. Clearly, we've read
Hmm.
things from people that have made it back from hell.
And at the end of chapter 7 too, it's we see these chalk creatures
Oh, I forgot about them. Thank you.
at the very end of the chapter. We see these creatures and Alice is so confused. She's like,
Mhm.
chalk has never been used in this way to like
Yep.
animate anything. How is this possible? And they kind of get attacked by them, and she takes water from the Lethe and like throws it on them, and they run away. But she questions like who made them,
Mhm.
and personally, I don't think it's Grimes, but I feel like they kind of make you question that.
They make you wonder that, but then at the same time, it's like, why would it be him? Because he's been
Y-
trying to push through. So then it's like, well, are these just like minions of Lord Yama then?
mhm.
And he's just trying to protect like when magicians and like non, like when alive, like when
Yeah.
humans make it
Mhm.
there, like are they just his entities then?
Yeah, so, like, I was questioning that, like, so obviously there's gonna be maybe somebody else in the mix. It also made me question how time works because, like, could
Hmm.
Grimes have been here long
Oh
enough
my gosh,
to
yeah.
create these things? Like, I feel like that could be a possibility if time in hell is much longer than time in, um, above,
Yeah.
on Earth. I also felt like there were some allusions to, like, Alice having some kinda trauma with Grimes.
Oh,
Like,
100%. I feel like that's
she
been sprinkled in a lot.
and I was like, "Alice, you in danger, girl. I don't know why you're going after this dude." Like,
Poor
mm,
choices have been made.
true. Um, but that brings us then to chapter 8,
Yeah,
our
our
last chapter in this section.
yes. And it poses the question, Alice and Peter, we know because we just found out, chalk doesn't work in hell, right?
Mhm.
Before Alice and Peter even try and realize that they're stuck in hell without magic.
Mhm.
How did neither of them in their research well, I mean, they overlooked this clearly. They were
Yes.
so hell bent on
Mhm.
getting to hell that they didn't realize, or it was never put into any of their studies, the sources that they were studying, that magic can't be used. So how are we even going to get back?
See, it's so interesting, right? They are high level academics, right?
Yeah.
They are the top of their field. You would expect that they would have found this, but I also understand they're looking at all of the evidence. They're not looking for the gaps.
Mm-mm.
They're not seeing where the holes in their primary sources are. And so they just didn't even think about it. They're
No.
like, oh, okay, I've got this, I've got this, I've got this. They didn't think about how magic was performed because all of these stories do have some element of magic in
Hmm.
them. It's just a different way of doing it. And so it's like, oh crap, I didn't even see that hole or that blind spot until I got here. And now this is a significant hole in
This
my
is like a
research.
big problem.
And then, of course, Archimedes shows back up.
I know. Well, and this is the funny part because, like, we saw him in chapter 2,
Hmm.
and then we haven't seen him since. Like, he showed up,
Hmm.
he was with them, they start climbing the wall by Archimedes,
Hmm.
and now he's back again. And it's like, okay, I'm trying to like pinpoint the times that he's popping up because
Hmm.
I'm like, he's got to be, what you doing, buddy? What you doing?
But now they feel like a little lost. They don't know how they're
Hmm.
going to get out. They know the only way out is through. And but how are they going to get
How are
through?
they going
And
to
I
get through?
think he kind of nudges them a little bit in the
Yeah.
right direction.
Yeah. And in this moment of Alice and Peter also not like having magic,
Mhm.
we also again see the difference between privilege and not
Mhm.
with Peter and Alice's reaction.
Yeah.
Because Peter just kind of goes, all right, well, we'll figure it out.
Mhm.
Oh, well. And Alice is in complete panic mode.
Yes.
Like
Mhm.
she's stuck and is like having to use her catechisms again and
Mhm.
cannot work, like she cannot find a black and white, a true or false within
Mhm.
this moment, and instead has to like go through almost like I imagine Alice's brain sometimes like a filing cabinet of research,
Mhm.
and she's going through the drawers and
Mhm.
filing through until she pulls out this file that's called intuitionists,
Mhm.
and she quotes to herself that an intuitionist believes that the final push for magic is just the fact that you believe it and it is
Mhm.
so.
Mhm.
And so she tells herself that she just has to pretend that everything's okay and everything will be okay. And
Mhm.
that's the one thought that pushes her out of her panic. It's not Peter that pushes her out of her panic.
No.
Where before she was the one that pushed Peter out of his panic.
Mhm.
And she had to find her own
Mhm.
way to get it there.
Yeah. Well, and it seems like Alice is constantly doing that for herself,
Mhm.
right? She's pulling herself back, using her catechisms. She's constantly self reliant. And I think
Mhm.
that also is something that shows throughout her, like reflecting on her academics.
Yeah.
Nobody was going to help her. She didn't. You know, Grimes was constantly saying, "You're going to have to work harder," and all
Mhm.
that kind of stuff. And, Peter doesn't seem to have that same experience. And so she is working hard and pulling herself out and like trying to be optimistic, but
Mhm.
Peter is actually truly optimistic, um, which is interesting and
Yeah.
and shows their different approaches.
Yeah. So at the end of this first section, I mean, we're left with a pretty big cliffhanger here. Like
Yeah.
Alice and Peter are, I mean, they're literally stuck in hell. Like
Mhm.
we thought they had magic, they thought they had magic. I mean, it was already going to be a big enough journey them trying to find Grimes.
Mhm.
We've only made it to one of the courts. We're on the road to Desire.
Yes.
Yeah, we're on the road to Desire, to the second court. Magic doesn't work. Archimedes to the rescue, hopefully. And I cannot wait to see what is in store. These bone creatures. I mean, you can't imagine that they're only going to pop up this one
Yeah.
time. This is
Mhm.
not the last that we've seen of them. Um, at some point, I can imagine that we're going to either hear more backstory of the existing stories from the four victims, maybe more about Olivia Kincaid, maybe
Mhm.
more of Grimes's victims.
That's what I would assume.
I would love for some more backstory between Alice and Peter's relationship.
There's something we're missing there. There's got to be more to the
There
story.
really does because there's some sort of illusion. I mean, we know that they're both advisees underneath Grimes, so they've
Mhm.
definitely got interactions, right? They've taken
Mhm.
college courses
Mhm.
together. They've had to have worked on projects together, sure, but what does that really look like? You know, did they have some sort of romantic relationship?
From different parts, it feels like there's an allusion to that, some type of at least closeness.
Yeah.
And that's the piece that we're missing. And I want to know more. Like at this point, at the end of our section,
Yeah.
I really love Peter. And I feel like that's kind of Alice isn't making it easy.
Mhm.
We're from Alice's perspective, and she really perceives him as a privileged
Mhm.
kid who has had everything handed to him and that he's one upping her all the time. But the way that I'm seeing it, like he is constantly optimistic. He wants to push forward. He's, trying to help. I'm a little worried about Alice's sanity though,
Yeah.
because she's had to pull herself back so many times.
Mhm.
She's panicked. She's, her interaction with the Lethe, how many times she's had
Mhm.
to use her catechisms. And like, is she gonna make it through? Is she gonna lose it? I mean, obviously we have 3/4 of the book to go,
Yes,
so I don't think it's
seriously.
gonna be a linear path.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's still so much to learn.
Yeah. I feel the same way about Alice. I don't know that I love Peter yet.
Yeah.
Peter still gives me this uncomfortable vibe. I
Mm,
his motives do not feel holistic to me. I feel like
mm,
he's got something, an ulterior motive up his sleeve.
mhm.
I don't know that he's really there to be supportive. I just got this itchy feeling still that I
Mm,
can't put my finger on Peter, so I want to learn more about him. I really wish we could have, this is one of those moments where I wish we had a multiple
yeah.
perspective
Mhm.
instead of just a
Agreed.
one,
Mhm.
so that I could have a little bit of Peter in Peter's brain in here,
Mhm.
and everything. So I'm definitely excited to dive into section two, to dive in through the next set of chapters,
Yes.
for sure.
I feel like this is still really confusing, but I'm gonna trust the process.
Trusting the
That
process.
is an R.F. Kuang book, especially one as thick as this one.
Yes.
So let's we hope that you continue to
Yes.
follow along. Um, give us your input. What do you think? Do you have any theories? What questions do you have? Because obviously we still have a lot of
We
them.
still got a lot.
And maybe you guys have some other insights or ideas that we haven't thought of.
Mhm.
Let us know.
And we hope to catch you for our next episode where we cover chapters 9 through 17.